Uniform Show, episode 15. The NFL season has arrived. Our last episode, we were talking primarily baseball. And we had to wait, but here we have another season and a lot of good, but a lot of bad from the new season. So let's get into it. We have some baseball to begin with, and in this case, it is two players in mind that are calling it a career, and they didn't go out as they should have.
Adam Wainwright and Brandon Crawford both originally had plain solid socks and colored black cleats, or not white. But at the end of their careers here, they look very different, having both striped socks and white or primarily white cleats in the case of Adam Wainwright.
I was disappointed to see these players. I mean, Wainwright, we've been watching for, it's almost been a 20-year career. Brandon Crawford winning World Series with the Giants. Well, both of them had won their share of World Series. Cardinals had so much success. They won twice with Wainwright. It was in 06 and 11, and then the Giants won 3 World Series with 2 of them in 12 and 14 with Brandon Crawford, and I would call them both conservative players for most of their careers. And then these last few seasons, seeing more of Crawford, he decided to go with not just high socks, but the high socks with the stripes and different kinds of striping on them, which for me is the wrong move. I like solid socks. We'll bring it up many times, I'm sure, in future episodes. I just don't like it.
Definitely not as clean. We've never been a fan of striped socks, especially in baseball. And pairing it up with the white or primarily white cleats just makes it stand out even more, because they complement each other or contrast each other in a bad way.
Really, until the last few years, white shoes were reserved only for the Oakland Athletics.
Right.
That's one thing I don't like. I'll just talk about Wainwright here for a moment, and we've said it in other episodes. I believe it may have even been our first episode with Albert Pujols, how the very first thing I think of with the high socks with the Cardinals was Rick Ankiel when he was a pitcher, came out and he decided to wear the high socks, and we were just shaking our heads and we couldn't believe it, because we had not seen any Cardinal do that to that point. Right. And he was definitely seeking attention, and he got it by wearing those socks. And then now you see these players actually choosing to wear them, not just for attention, but I really think they believe they look good.
Yeah.
And to see someone like Wainwright do this is a real head scratcher for me. Yeah. Someone who's so established, a great, great Cardinal, and this is how you want to be remembered.
Yeah, and in the case of the Cardinals, the pattern, the colors don't match, especially in the home jersey's case, really at all.
There's no blue.
Yeah, there's no blue. There's no striping in any of the jersey or hat anywhere. Just inconsistent, bad look.
And to do that to the Cardinal uniform, you're going to have high socks, red socks, all red, please. Yeah. Solid red socks. And then jumping over to Crawford here, there's a lot of things that we don't like. We talked about the socks. Then there is the white shoes. Then he has the headband, which I don't care for.
Yeah.
It's not football. And then you get a perfect view of the gigantic ad patch that we went over last episode.
Right. This photo illustrates it perfectly, where the ad patch is large and prominently featured in his tip of helmet to the fans. It's perfectly executed. What they want is for you to see it.
We'll move on because there is so much to cover in this episode, and we've got one more to address in baseball, and it's players that don't button up. It's the unprofessional, I'm going to unbutton the top of my jersey and let it go, and on top of it, I'm not even going to wear any kind of undershirt at all. I'm just going to go out there bare-chested.
Yeah, there have been a number of players over the seasons, but most recently, Abreu of the Astros is the most prominent one, being on a team, of course, that is so successful and featured so much of the time on national TV and the playoffs and World Series recently. You're going to see it more. And it just ruins the jersey's intended effect. The name is uneven. The piping in the middle is now uneven and broken, and just makes the whole thing look really sloppy and saggy and not clean.
Yeah, I have a lot of complaints with the Astros. We were major fans of the blue and gold that they wore in the 90s, especially we're talking about mid to late 90s. I haven't liked this uniform set very much. We even made the comment last time when we were talking about the cheerleaders actually look better. Their uniform is designed better than the team.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then even, I think their hats, at least for the City Connect, are better than what they wear, at least for the standard uniforms too. I would like to see a redesign for the Astros, but this is making their uniform look as bad as possible when you're doing this, and it's just unprofessional.
Yeah.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball, and I hope he and other players around the league who are doing this are getting fined. I mean, it's one thing if you don't button up, but you've got to wear something underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, Brandon Crawford, as we were just talking about, he started unbuttoning in more recent years too. Other players, Justin Turner, Brad Fulmer, were going far back to the 2000s, early 2000s.
Back in the 90s, and I love David Wells, but you have to call David Wells out for not buttoning up. He's probably the first player from our childhood that I would go back to.
Yeah, David Wells too. And at a certain point, I almost say just rather have a pullover top if players aren't going to button up, if it's that uncomfortable. At least that would keep things clean looking and wouldn't have that option to open it up.
Yeah, I feel so strongly about it in baseball of all sports that it's disrespectful to the tradition of the game. It's unprofessional that the umpires, someone should jump in and the league should force all players to button all the way up. It is not asking too much for them to do that.
Just like players in football should be forced to tuck in their jerseys and pull up their socks when they are falling down. That's a separate discussion.
Now for the NFL. And we're turning back. Before we get into this season, we are turning back to 2014. And this is one I have meant to include in many episodes, and for one reason or another didn't make it. But the 49ers and Cowboys played a game. It was week 1 in 2014. So we're almost talking a full 10 seasons ago now. It was an afternoon game here in the West. Then it would be a 3:30, 3:25, America's Game of the Week in Dallas. And this is before shoes start getting bad, but even today, this is unacceptable. Michael Crabtree came out wearing blue shoes. Just about all blue shoes here for the 49ers against the Cowboys.
Yeah, just looking at the pictures here, I'm just having to kind of look really hard, especially the one on the right, to distinguish whose shoes go with who.
Right.
Because the shade of blue is pretty much the exact same color as the Cowboys.
You know, I have never, in a uniform sense, I never forgave Crabtree for this. And I felt so annoyed by it during the whole game. I was just saying, you want to play for the Cowboys that bad? Go ahead and play for the Cowboys. Be a Dallas Cowboy. We don't need you. You're coming out there and wearing the other team's colors, and some people would just say, well, why are you getting all upset over shoes? It's still a part of the uniform.
Yeah, and it's your rival, the Cowboys.
It's your rival, and you're wearing their team colors. You can't wear your own. You can't even wear black shoes. You can't even wear white shoes. You're wearing the Cowboys colors.
And it doesn't matter what you're trying to support by wearing the color blue. You don't wear it with the 49ers uniform, or you show your support for whatever it was in some other way.
Or at least another week.
Yeah.
It's like anything but that week.
Yeah.
And I know he played college football in Texas. I know that. But this is another one. Here, there's no excuse. As we said, of all teams, the 49ers, your colors are red and gold. You're facing the Cowboys. And week one, you come out wearing the blue shoes. It's not like there's just a little bit blue. They are all blue with a little white stripe at the bottom and the laces. Otherwise, they're all blue.
Yeah.
Now we're starting this season at last. And we open with the Chiefs hosting the Detroit Lions. And, you know, you have to take a deep breath if you're a traditional uniform person and you like uniforms with, this is going to be a big issue with pants and socks. You're not exactly asking for a whole lot. And here we have it. And this is going to be a theme that we're going to see where players are really struggling when it comes to wearing socks. I mean, just look at this. Here you have one player with stockings. And then you have the other player who can't wear any socks at all. I mean, is this college football?
Apparently. I suspected that the Lions were going to do this, that they were going to wear their white pants without anything on them, with the white stockings all the way down, because for whatever reason, they have been doing that in big games for the past couple years. And what did they do? They did that exact thing. These pants are awful. They're lazy. They have no stripe or blue or anything on them. It's just like, we didn't want to wear pants today, and that's basically what they did. And every time I see these on the Lions or the Saints, it's just, I don't even know what to say. It's just so bad. It's so awful design-wise.
Yeah, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And this season, it's been taken to another level we see the Lions here, and then Tyreek Hill. He has been as big of a problem, maybe the biggest problem, I would say, of any single player. Phenomenal talent. I enjoy watching him play just like any other football fan. But what is this? What is this that he's doing? This is not a sock. I call this the leg warmer. That's what it is. I mean, it's almost just like an extended wristband that you put on your leg, or a leg warmer.
Right.
It's not a sock. I'd even take the stocking over this.
Right.
than just like, well, something sort of just hanging there in the middle of your leg, and then you still have a bunch of exposed skin, bare skin, down on your ankle, and then your knees aren't covered up either.
Yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, at the beginning of the season so far, there have been a lot of players who have come out at the beginning of games with no socks or droopy socks or half socks, leg warmers. I don't know what the message is behind it or why this has become a symbol or trend for players, but players come out with it and then they're fined and they change after the first quarter or halftime or whatever, but they need to make a statement at the beginning of the game by doing it or for the second half of the game.
Yes. Again, totally unprofessional. This is very collegiate what they're doing with not wearing socks. Or again, this is a thing we start to see a little bit, but now it's becoming more popular with players. And when you have someone like Tyreek Hill, someone who's as great of a player as he is, a talent like he is, he's influencing other players. Like, hey, why don't I try that? And that's hard for me to believe and understand, but clearly it's happening around the league. And he took it a step further later on with the completely bare look.
Yeah, this was just a couple weeks later. It's Florida. It's hot. I guess he just really wanted to free himself of the feel and restriction of the stockings, which, again, like you said, should be there anyway. And we have been trying to understand that whole trend too. They're so thin, they're transparent. Isn't the whole point that they feel like they're hardly there already? But I guess it's not enough because various players have been going bare-legged completely. The first slide with the Lions, Tyreek Hill, Jets cornerbacks, Deebo Samuel, Josh Jacobs. What's up?
And Tyreek Hill, and I want to say this, that we're only reviewing the first 4 weeks or so of the season because there is so much to cover in a few weeks of football, that he made the joke that he was fined $100,000 for not wearing socks. Apparently that wasn't what he was fined, but he was fined enough that he started wearing socks again. And we'll see what he does tonight. Prime time, Philadelphia. What is he going to do? Is he going to wear the socks? Is he going to do the leg warmer look? Or is he just going to say, well, I just want to be fined anyway. I'll take the fine. It's not like he can't pay for it. And I just won't wear any socks for some part of the game. But the league needs to crack down on this and deal with it and find them whatever amount it is to make them change. Or better yet, kick them off the field until they wear the uniform.
Yeah, dude, Mike Singletary, and send them into the locker room and don't have them come back out until they get properly dressed.
Because we're not talking about a play or two. I mean, this goes on for quarters at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, we brought up Frank Gore in the championship game against the Falcons in 2012, and I love Frank Gore. That was awful, what he did at the end of that game. And for players, you just have to crack down on these guys. I know it sounds ridiculous saying, well, they should get kicked out of the game. I'm not saying kicked out of the game, but they should be removed from the play. If they continue to do this, fix it on the sideline, and then they can go back in.
Right.
There has to be something that the league does because it hasn't worked. And here's rookie Puka Nacua, who got off to an excellent start. He broke all kinds of records to begin his career as a rookie receiver. And he has been a big problem. And seen a lot of his highlights. We had the game between the 49ers and the Rams where he's doing the whole leg warmer, and I could have found pictures that expose this even more. But it really bothered me, and it bothered me right away, saying, what is so difficult here? What is the problem?
Yeah, we watched the whole game between the 49ers and Rams, and it was just in and out, up and down. His socks, leg warmers, whatever they are, they just kept separating during the game, and I don't really remember him fixing them and getting them right by the end of the game. Just kind of got worse and stayed that way for the rest of the game. Following weeks, he's done a little bit better keeping them together or up, whatever.
Keeping them more together. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, though, if I've seen him properly wear socks yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I mean, we're just looking for something like on his right leg here. Can we at least get closer to that? Because most of the time, both legs look like his, well, I should say his left leg. For us on the right side here, his left leg, that's at least what I could live with. But
Yeah.
when he's going with both legs, which is usually the case, as you see on the left, which is his right leg, that's what I've gotten used to.
Yeah.
And again, I don't care how good of a player you are, get it right.
Yeah, at least Amador Lenore on the right here has the stockings that are complete. As much as we don't like stockings, well, at least it completes the look.
And it's not transparent either, I'll at least say that.
Right, they are not transparent with visible seams either, so it can be done right.
And I can't believe how much we have to talk about this. Socks and pants. But here's a new issue that's come up in the last season or two, and it's gotten worse. Usually these things don't get better, they do get worse. Ezekiel Elliott with the Patriots here, and his, the back of his legs, kind of hamstring area, the thighs. How transparent is too transparent? Well, I'd say it shouldn't be transparent at all for any of these teams. But to be this transparent, I mean, I had never seen anything like this.
Yeah. The new format of material that Nike's been using with the transparent mesh in the back. If you're wearing a color underneath that is not matching the pants, then you got this real see-through effect going on. And of course, he likes to wear the white stockings all the way up, and I'm sure it's just a one piece all the way up to the waist. So you're not going to get something that's not going to stand out. It's going to stand out a lot, and it is here. And we say that you have Dippin' Dots on the Vici's models' helmets, and you got Dippin' Dots on the back of people's thighs and hamstrings now too with Nike pants.
One of the teams we started seeing this with was the Bengals when they were wearing white pants, and you'd
Right.
see the orange
Creeping through in the Super Bowl. Transparent, full one-piece look.
Well, that's nothing compared to this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just too much. Well, I have to take a deep breath because we've started off with everything to this point has been bad. And it's still bad because here are the Cardinals in action with their new uniforms. This was against the Commanders. And we always like to see, well, we do a review when these uniforms come out, but we say, well, the true test will be once we see them in game action on the field. What are your thoughts?
This was the worst game of week one from what I can remember. Just terrible, college, high school looking on both sides, all one color, no stripe on either pants for either team, and then the stockings going all the way down. Just a total one-piece tights look. And yes, the Cardinals debuting their new uniforms for the first time in the regular season. And it's bad enough that they wore red on red a few times, but now it's a full-time thing. And I was not expecting the Commanders to necessarily wear white on white. But thinking about it, it makes sense. Traditionally, they do that a lot. But
no stripe, as you said, on the pants for the Cardinals. I mean,
Yeah.
it's color on color to start. Let's
Bad
begin
enough.
there. That's bad enough. But no striping on the shoulders, no striping on the pants at all. And what stands out most of the uniform is the name Arizona.
yeah,
And this is supposed to be a home uniform.
yeah.
This is supposed to be their home uniform, and it says Arizona. Could it be much bigger? I mean, the only thing that's much bigger, or really you could say that is in the same league as this, is that ATL with
Falcons.
the Falcons. I would say, is that not the largest of any team?
That I can think of, yeah.
The ATL. But I will at least defend them saying, well, it's only ATL. The whole Arizona on the front of the jersey. My opinion is that it has unchanged. They're as bad as we thought they were. I still give them an F for wearing these.
Same here. We saw them a little bit in the preseason, but this was outside and good lighting, so you really got to see it probably most clear than you ever had at this point through the first 3 weeks of preseason. Really showcased the bad features of this set.
I mean, the helmet is the only part that's all right. It's never been a very strong helmet, but it's still one that is at least average.
Yeah.
My complaint has always been I thought they could always use a stripe of some sort down the middle. It always looks like something's missing,
Yeah.
but it's all right. The uniform itself, and I have to say, putting it all together, it's an F. They finally had an opportunity to improve on what they wore for years, and this is what they came up with in Arizona. But the Commanders also need to be criticized, and I have to say, it doesn't get much worse than this. The all-white, I mean, we gave the Commanders an F too when we were reviewing their uniforms
Yeah.
going into last season. They got the matte helmet, they got just the big W. They have the numbers, which are an issue, but they have no striping on the pants, and it's just. I look at that and I think of ballerinas.
Yeah, and in the case of the Commanders, the Lions and the Saints both had better pants and chose to wear these type of pants. The Commanders also have better pants. They could wear the red ones, burgundy ones, as plain, and they don't have a stripe either, as mediocre as those are. Why you would go back to these again? Terrible choice.
And it's really unthinkable because
Or at least wear the red socks with it.
the joke was always growing up, and I know it wasn't just when we grew up, was the last thing you want to do is, as a guy, dress like this. It was a punishment to dress like this. It was embarrassing. It was the guy that had to do ballet for one reason or another. Just make sure that no one knows you're doing it. And it was, well, football players have to sometimes end up doing ballet to work on their footwork, but they do it behind closed doors. So no one sees them, yet they all come out as a team wearing these. And we just saw it today, the Bills. I mean, and Josh Allen, he totally embraces it.
Stockings with visible seams instead of socks. And that's a great illustration because the Bills used to wear blue socks at least with the white on white. And they just decided, like the Vikings and the Eagles, we don't want to do it anymore. We just want to wear white stockings because that's the least of anything that we could wear in that area while still wearing something.
We brought this up many times, but I am not giving teams a pass on it. I am not getting used to it, and we're going to continue to hammer teams for deciding to go with this non-football look.
Yeah.
Again, unprofessional. This is not suiting up. This is dressing up to me, not suiting up for football. This is dressing up when they wear these.
Dressing up, dressing down, but not dressing right. And again, Commanders could have worn the red pants or at least the red socks with this set, and it will look a fair amount better.
But it is the worst game so far this year.
Yeah.
When you think about the Cardinals coming out with those all reds. And it's a color rush. Let's
Yeah.
call it for what it is. It was a color rush game, week one, between what I consider these two loser franchises. And it's too bad because historically, the Redskins were a great franchise. But they're completely disconnected to me now. They're separate. They're an expansion team.
Yeah.
The Commanders. There's no link anymore to the Redskins.
Yeah. And the Washington football team, who would have thought, was much better dressed, and they should have just stuck with that.
And I call this a night at the ballet. This was another week one matchup. And to me, there's nothing worse than wearing these. It's indoors too, so it's all the more like the ballet
Yeah.
when it's in the Superdome of all places. The Titans decided to wear these white on whites.
Yeah, they have a slight little pattern on the side. It's like a horizontal diagonal stripe wannabe there, and then they have the logo, but otherwise it's the same lazy, we don't want to wear anything pants that you see from the Commanders, the Saints, and the Lions. And they've dressed better than this. They wore blue socks with the white pants before. This is just awful looking, and especially when you have big players with guts and big thighs, and then you have skinny legs. It just makes your body look really unbalanced.
And then to go along with this, you get to enjoy those terrible numbers that the Titans have. I mean, they are among the worst in the NFL.
They are.
I mean, again, grade these, they are an F all the way.
Yeah, they have the best look for the Titans is the blue helmet with the white jersey and the blue pants, and they just didn't want to wear them in this case.
We got to move on. Show me no more of white on whites. But I have to criticize Derek Carr. Okay, in our very first episode, we complimented Derek Carr because he returned to the classic quarterback's helmet, and he's gone back and forth. He had it right, and now he went back and returned to this.
Yeah, we were looking forward to seeing him with the Saints wearing the clean, traditional helmet that he worn from the beginning of his career, which he went back to wearing last year with the Raiders, as you just said. And he decided to switch back to the V-Cheese 02 Dippin' Dots helmet, as we call it again, which looks horrible at the front. It looks really horrible on the sides where the face mask connects to the helmet. The chunky wire that's all discombobulated looking. The fasteners. The only thing about this helmet that looks good is that it is smooth top to bottom, round at the back, but that's all you can say about it. Another bad move.
Yeah, and I will say this marks the 1 year anniversary since we've been doing these shows. I mean, we've tuned in to uniforms for so long. We've talked about them for so many years. And it's really frustrating to see a player get it right and then they get it wrong with the helmets. And we could just talk about helmets only, and we hardly have spoken about helmets. We only touch on helmets with this. Eventually, we may just do a helmet-only episode.
Yeah.
Especially, you are a helmet expert. I have my opinions, which I share with you, but I'm not the helmet expert that you are.
It's frustrating to see how things developed, and with the Riddell Axiom, which we call the motorcycle helmet, the plastic helmet, it's just getting worse and worse. And you can only hope that that helmet doesn't become any more popular than it has been, but I can see how it's going to be the standard helmet probably in 5 years. But yeah, the Saints, once again, one of the teams we're most frustrated by. Can't forget to mention it because they wear gold pants in the preseason and tease you with it. They have them in their wardrobe, so to speak, and they just continue to wear black on black or white on black or the white on white, which I mentioned, tights.
Well, that was another color rush game week 1.
Yeah.
The Saints and the Titans.
Right.
Because what we saw there, I don't have them together, but this was there at the Superdome. The
Right.
Titans were wearing the white, and the Saints, we always were hopeful. Didn't have my hopes up, but still was holding on to just the smallest of hope that the Saints would decide to wear the gold pants, but no, black all the way down.
Right. It's amazing they've worn them at all in recent years, but they should wear them every week.
Finally, we've got something good to feel about. And that was 30 plus minutes of awful, terrible uniforms, enough to make me almost puke with what's going on in MLB and then how we started the NFL season off. There was a great uniform matchup in week 1. It was 49ers and Steelers in Pittsburgh.
So we got to see it for an extended period of time. We were anticipating it, hoping for it, and just reflecting on how it's too bad these two teams had never matched up in the Super Bowl so far with these great uniforms. Either combination is excellent, and that's what we got in week 1. The Steelers in their classic black on yellow, and 49ers with gold on white on gold. And you can basically count on both teams dressing very well in most all departments. Yeah, the 49ers had some players wearing the white stockings, but overall, it was a great look early in the season, week 1 game, and it's too bad the sun didn't come out more. It did come out a little bit, which was nice, but even with it being overcast, still one of the better matchups in all the NFL that you can ask for.
Yeah, well, one of the things I have to say before I'm commenting on this is I am throwing flags again on these players, and there are uniform infractions left and right. We're talking about the pants and the socks, and the lack of socks. So they are getting flagged for these things. My complaint here, and I just get out of the way, is yes, the white stocking look. Overall, though, it's good. You can see there when it's done right and when it's done wrong. Christian McCaffrey, another great player, but he will do this in certain games and wear the white when you can see how great the red looks right there.
Yeah.
And I also liked what you said was the Steelers have yellow and the 49ers have gold.
Yes.
This is not two teams with gold and gold.
Nope.
Because if the Steelers don't have yellow, and I know I'm a broken record, then what is yellow?
Yeah.
With the Steelers and the Rams and the Packers, come on. This is gold for the 49ers, yellow for the Steelers.
Yeah.
My favorite uniform matchup between the two, though, is the home games in San Francisco.
Yeah.
The 49ers red home is their stronger, and I've always felt the Steelers road is the stronger of the two. But this is still one of the best you're going to get. And there hasn't been a lot to enjoy with great uniform matchups. So I'm very happy and pleased that we got at least one, not even good, great, to have something positive in week one.
Right. You have to rely on the classic teams to give you the good matchups.
Yes.
Otherwise, you just don't know what you're going to get, and it's probably going to be bad.
Because there was a whole lot of ugly, but the 49ers weren't, and Steelers weren't the only two teams looking good. There was the Vikings. And I have to be honest, I did not show the socks for a reason. Minus the socks for Vikings players. They chose to wear their turnbacks week one.
And again, this was a late announcement, more of a surprise compared to the other teams that we knew about in advance, especially the three Eagles, Buccaneers, and Seahawks. This was a very late announcement in addition, and it just looks so much better, as we highlighted when we went over the retro uniform review not long ago. Cleaning up the sleeves with the stripe that doesn't come up to the weird angle at the edge, and then having the block numbers very nice and clean, fills out the space well, and then just the pants being restored to more traditional stripe. And the gray face mask does look better than the black.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see these, and it's yet another one of those examples. It's please bring these back as the full-time home uniform. All this experimenting that the Vikings have done, it feels like for a good 20 years. I've lost track of how long their uniforms have been bad now.
Yeah.
It's time. It is time to go back. The block numbers, the clean shoulders, the better helmet. You know, it's just a matter of getting the socks right for the players. But if you're just taking from the waist up, this is about as good as the Vikings are going to look. We can make a few little improvements and suggestions, which we've made before. They also have, for this one, they had the Bud Grant patch there.
Right.
On the uniform, which I'm okay with. He was a great coach, and it goes back to the history of wearing these. I'm just sad that that's it. They're not planning on wearing these again, are they?
No. Week one, that was it. And strange that teams don't usually choose week one, and they don't usually choose a game that's not a primetime game. It would have been nice for them to wear them against the 49ers this Monday night.
Yes.
But seeing them under the daylights is also a nice thing. Just a strange choice.
And I have to bash Kirk Cousins for that helmet, which we can get into when we do something separate on helmets, but I just can't give him a pass. And I'm still throwing... I may not put it up here, but I am saying I'm throwing a flag on him.
Yeah, we still think this is the worst looking face mask type that was ever made to this point. The new Axiom by Riddell is also right there now too, but this one especially just...
Yes, I should say specifically not so much a helmet, but the face mask.
Right.
Is one of the worst.
Yes.
Peyton Manning had the similar model
Right.
all those years. You have Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins, which is basically an upside down face mask.
That's what it looks like. And those are the three that have held on to that type, or a type very close to it, longer than it.
Right, the quarterbacks, and then of course you bring up Larry Fitzgerald.
Right. Whole career.
The Jets, week one. So we had some really bad uniforms, but you could say you had two nice turnbacks.
Yeah.
Sweet turnbacks. Week one, you had the Vikings and you have the Jets. And I could just say the same thing about the Jets that I said about the Vikings. Would you please just make these the uniforms? Anyone with any taste knows that these are superior in every single way.
Yeah. And especially after last year's horrible uniform year for the Jets, where they decided to wear white on black for
It was the
more
worst.
than half the year.
It was the worst year in their history.
That's
for
right.
Uniforms.
Most definitely. To come out with these and correct what they did last year was really great to see. The helmet, the face mask, the jersey design with the stripes on the shoulders, the number, the pants, and they actually wear green socks with these, or stockings, but it's green. It's not all white all the way down like it usually is when they wear white on white.
Well, no one makes it look better than Rodgers.
And then
with
Aaron
that
Rodgers
helmet and face mask
with the
combination.
traditional smooth helmet and rounded, curved, sleek face mask. Not what you have in most every case nowadays for your helmets. And this one shows it there, the nice contrast of all the elements on Rodgers.
Yeah, and that's why I chose every single picture was going to be Aaron Rodgers for the Jets. And hey, they won, even though they lost him most likely for the season. It was a very disappointing start. But they did win the game, and they looked so good doing it.
Yeah, and like you said, another team that should be their primary uniform, if not the Joe Namath Jets uniforms.
Right. I would go for either. As we've said many times, that would be my first choice, the Joe Namath era. But if they decide to go with these, I would be A-okay with that too.
Yeah.
Now we're going down again, and it's the Browns, the white Browns.
And these were modeled after a uniform that had leather helmets, not even a helmet in the traditional sense, as we've had it today or for the past 40 plus years. We think the Browns uniforms, the standard sets, are one of the best.
And just underrated in football.
Very high on our list as we reviewed all uniforms last year. And these are just a big step down as far as we're concerned. Even the ones that they used the last couple years with this jersey set and the orange helmet worked a lot better, but this is just too much white, and the block drop shadowy numbers are not clean looking. Just no need for these uniforms when they have so many primary combinations that work so well. The brown on white, the brown on orange, the white on white, the white on orange, all those four are very good. There's no need for this.
Yeah, they are. I will give them this, and what prevented them from being an F for us was the design is clean.
Yeah.
I'll give you that, but it is totally unnecessary, and it would be about the last direction I would go if I was designing something for the Browns, who have the orange helmets, and they're going to such an extreme, again, to do this at home.
Yeah.
You know, I dig the brown home uniform because it's what the teams call it. They are called the Browns after all, after Paul Brown, and they decided to make the team color brown, and they're the only team that has it, and they do it really well.
Yeah.
And then to go around with such a plain, bland, boring, forgettable uniform that, again, there's no contrast in it at all. I mean, if you had the orange helmet, it would be much better than going with a white helmet. And I felt like they were just late to the game, and the Bengals beat them to the punch with wearing a white. And the Bengals have a reason, at least, that there are white Bengal Tigers.
Right.
This, there's no purpose. There's no point to have these other than just have something radically different.
Yeah, it's a throwback that's too far back to really make work well in the current era.
Yeah, and just again, my number one issue is the white helmet. The rest of it is okay. I
Yeah.
can live with it. I don't like it, but the white helmet's what bothers me the most. It's a very poor choice, as they wore it against such a outstanding uniform like the Steelers. And then I'm not even sure if we're going to show this next time, but the 49ers too. In both cases, they looked so inferior, and they just looked like a unprofessional minor league football team compared to the Steelers and the 49ers. Those are the two teams you decide to wear these against?
Yeah.
Bad choices.
Yeah, if you're going to have a white helmet, you need a strong logo and on the side, and don't have it.
And they do at least hold their own and look very respectable, even though they're not in that top tier when they wear their regular uniforms. I'd say they're in the tier below,
right?
But the above average if they were to wear these against the 49ers and Steelers.
Yeah.
I brought this one up again. We had it last year with the Bears. They brought it back again. The orange helmet, the orange jersey, and one look I cannot stand is, well, the socks being all one color, really, except for very thin striping. But then the shoes being the same exact color in this case, in orange. And then he tapes it up orange on the orange shoes.
Yeah, so it's all one piece. And again, it's embarrassing because it's the Bears and they have such great uniforms. They chose to wear these against the Cowboys, ruining a great uniform matchup last year, and then this year against the Buccaneers in the Florida sun, which make them look even more washed out and poor contrasted.
Yeah, it's just, come on, Justin Fields. That's what bothers me the most, is when he tapes it up with all orange on his shoes.
And you can see that he has the true sock sagging below, and he has the orange tight stockings with the seams showing above it.
The only good thing I can say is, and I'm thankful for, that it's not all orange. I mean, it could be orange helmet, total color rush, orange helmet, orange jersey, orange pants, orange socks, orange shoes.
Yeah.
But that is really being generous.
Yeah.
That's the only positive I'll pull out of this. It actually could be worse. But it's bad.
Yeah. They need to get rid of these as soon as possible.
And here's a big subject today. Our big topic today is number 0. And this is the perfect expression for a player out there wearing a single 0. That the NFL decided this year they're allowing players to wear 0, and you even had certain players fighting over number 0.
Yeah, we've seen new players wearing 0, and we've seen a lot of established players converting to 0. No doubt, just to be unique and stand out. But it's not an improvement. It's a number 8 without the middle division. I personally don't like 1 the most as a digit, so I'll say it's better than 1 for myself. But other than that, don't like it. And of course, since they destroyed the rule about positional numbering, you got tons of players wearing 0 that are on defense and linebackers, and it just looks terrible.
This was another thing that made the league no fun, right? And I just have to say, I'm wearing 0, man.
Yeah. Being none is fun.
And here are a few other players that you have that decided to wear 0, and they all look bad. We can agree. It doesn't matter the uniform, doesn't matter the player. And there are some good players here who have decided, such as Roquan Smith on the left, and then you've got Brian Burns here on the right. I mean, this is their choice. They weren't forced to wear a 0. It wasn't like, well, there weren't any other numbers available, and that's what I had to go with, was 0.
That's not a punishment. But yeah, especially Roquan Smith, traditional linebacker, look with 58, and then he switched to 18, and now this year he's down to 0.
Down.
Yeah. So for us to see a player go from what we consider traditional all the way down to 0 like that, very strange and disappointing.
This is something I'd like to see them discontinue. I hope it's only like a fad for a year or two. That is what I hope for. It's another one of the worst decisions that the league has made. And we already have, we've seen all the problems we already have with uniforms and the state of uniforms. And to add this on top of all the other issues, we've complained enough about single digits all over the place with various players, whether it be Judon with the Patriots or Thibodeau with the Giants as a couple of examples. You know, these guys are pass rushers or edge players.
Carlos Dunlap.
They're wearing single digits, and now we have 0s out there. But there's one player who wore 0 and wore it right and was double 0, Jim Otto. It's the only player I've ever liked wearing 0, and then he had a reason for wearing 0 too. But he fills it out nicely. He was a Hall of Fame center, one of the greatest centers ever, and he wore the 0 because of his name, Otto, with the 2 O's on both ends. So it was very clever the way he did it. He's the only player that I want to see wear 0.
Yeah, it's clever, and it's so relevant. It's not just I'm trying to stand out for no reason. It actually is significant to his name. And having the 2 digits fills out that big muscular body and makes it look good.
Yeah, for a lineman.
Yeah.
I mean, for an offensive lineman in the old days, he played in the 60s and the 70s, and filling it out and having that look, as an O-lineman, 0-0.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go with that.
Yeah.
But these single 0s, and then we're seeing them on players who are up on the line.
Yeah. Big guys, so much empty space in their jersey when you have a single 0. But he makes it look good. And if those guys switch to 0-0, it would look a lot better.
Yeah, I'd rather not have it at all. But I had to bring up Jim Otto.
Yeah. Same here.
For those of us who we appreciate our own eras and the time we began watching football, but we also appreciate the history of the sport, and we can always go back and look at prior years. It was just like the Crabtree thing. I mean, that was almost 10 years ago, but now we're going back 40, 50 plus years to a player like this.
Yeah.
Now back to bad numbers again. And I call this crossing the number line. It happened with the 0s, the single 0s. But now we have kickers. And we just saw another one today, actually.
Yep. Not even aware of it. Out.
It was something we saw in college, of course, for so many years. And we're like, what's the deal with that? Why are there college kickers with these wacky numbers?
Right. And now the NFL has opened their minds and joined them. And kickers can now wear 20 through 49 and 90 through 99. And I haven't seen any wearing 90 whatever yet. But this was the first one that I noticed in the preseason with the Lions. Number 36 is their place kicker. Seen the Rams, number 42 is their punter. I've seen, like you said, we just saw today, the Patriots, number 43 is their place kicker, especially with the Patriots after having such great kickers in their recent history. Vinatieri. Especially with the Patriots having such an important kicker in Vinatieri, number 4, just seeing 43 kicking. It's like, whoa. And I hope there aren't any 90s, because that would be like, in our minds, seeing a defensive lineman kicking. This is like seeing a cornerback or safety kicking.
You throw out like a number 90, and a player that comes to mind is B.J. Raji. It's like watching B.J. Raji kick.
Yeah.
A field goal.
But the skinny guy who's the defensive lineman kicking a field goal.
Or an Isaac Sopalaga.
Right.
Going back.
Another non-good move. And if you just see the players walking around, running around, coming out, I can't tell if this is a kicker other than looking at the helmet. It's the only way.
Also, let's hope this is something that will die off soon.
Yeah.
This has been one I've put off, and we have to get to it, and this was as good of a time as we could get to. But the special kicker in Atlanta.
Here we got Koo in Atlanta, who we have noticed for the last couple years, especially wears the pants differently in kicking them up above his knee.
I'd call hiking it up.
Oh yeah, hiking.
In the whole thing was you'd hear about women hiking up their skirts. Now you have football players like this hiking up their shorts. And what do you call it?
Biker shorts. Got that from Uni-Watch. Paul Lucas couldn't explain it any better than that, so I give him credit for that. And that's exactly what it looks like. And of course, no pads for him, so it's not as challenging to hike up your pants that high. And then just having the huge gap in the legs, and then again the Dippin' Dot socks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
that all these kickers
almost
are wearing
like
now.
Polka dots on the back of the socks, which has become popular with many of the kickers in the league. And you're like, well, this is the guy I believe that started it.
Yeah.
Of anyone I know, and this is what kickers look like now.
But yeah, he looks more like a soccer player than an NFL kicker, and
except the fact that you could always say, the shorts are skin tight.
Yeah.
But that's what it makes me think of. Yeah, more of a soccer look.
Right.
And this is still football, and you need to suit up as a football player.
Yeah. And again, like we've said multiple times, even just for this episode, these skin tight stockings that everyone's wearing, I can't imagine how much of a difference there possibly is between those and going bare-legged. So we don't like those, but at least close the gap with those, it would look a lot better.
Yeah, so uniform infraction all the way. Flag, double flag, and give him the boot.
Yeah, the punter, the placeholder right here, at least he has the gap closed with the stockings. It just shows the difference right there, how much better it looks.
Yeah, and I just don't get why it's so difficult now.
Yeah.
For these kickers.
How much more of an advantage could they be getting?
Punters, and what changed over the last couple of years? Yeah. Why does it have to be so different? And you're seeing more of these kickers, where, like I said, it's like the biker short look, or they have the tights, or in this case, well, I'm going to have a sock, and we're talking about a wide gap between the pants and the sock or the stocking. and it's not a football uniform. That's not football. This is something else.
Yeah, and
This is not soccer. It's not cycling. This is supposed to be football.
That's right. And then when the players, when the kickers that are wearing the dots on their socks, well, that's not the standard team sock, and just more customization, departure from the team standard set of socks.
Tom Brady returned to New England. This was one you caught. This was one that you found that I was not aware of.
Again, Uni-Watch pointed this out, so credit to them. Tom Brady having his number retired. He's wearing the correct uniform that he wore with the Patriots, but all his kids have the current Patriots uniform that he never wore. It's a real head scratcher how that got made, but I'm glad he at least came out with his correct uniform, because we've seen other players come out for their retirement or other special events wearing the current jersey customized with their number and name on it, and it just looks so wrong. So at least he got it right here. Just strange that they gave his kids the current jersey set.
The wrong one.
Yeah.
And you see the comparison right there, one to the other. The collar is what stands out to me, is a much better collar having the color, right there versus nothing on the current one. It's just blue.
Yeah.
And it felt like the stripes are just too much. The red and white stripes on the shoulders.
Yeah, it belongs on the sleeve, on
Right.
the side. Like so many teams do it, but I guess the Patriots just wanted to be different.
But attention to detail, I don't get it. I can't remember. I think the cheerleaders wore the same thing too.
Oh.
I think they wore the ones that the kids are wearing.
No.
And that the players were probably wearing. And it's like, why is this so hard? I don't know. But that's probably the last time you're going to see Tom Brady in the uniform, unless he does some commercial. But then if he does a commercial, like you're saying, who knows if they'll actually get it right?
Right.
They'll throw him in the current uniform. We have out the commercial that you had the classic players in, that they put them in the wrong uniform, some of them.
Right. Wrong uniforms,
I mean,
wrong helmets.
there have been little changes, like you could talk about the one with Jerry Rice, where there's, subtle changes, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Or Emmitt Smith, pretty much the same exact uniform, but the Dan Marino one. Oh.
Yeah, it was the Tostitos uniform. It was the Tostitos commercial, week 1, Randy Moss, Dan Marino, Jerry Rice, and Emmitt Smith. And the worst of the two, we're seeing Randy Moss in the purple on purple current Vikings uniform, and Dan Marino in the white on white current Dolphins uniform, and they're wearing the tights and the stockings and the whole current bit.
Yeah,
But I guess we could do our own separate.
Right, I know we could have just done a breakdown of that video, because
Yeah.
they had Emmitt Smith come out there and everything looks good, and then I'm like immediately looking at shoes. Why does he have black shoes on? As a Cowboys player, back then he always wore white and blue shoes.
Yeah.
And you see him with the black shoes, I'm like, no, he never wore that.
Right. So good to see players that are retired getting it right.
Yeah, at least we know this was one last time, or we got to see one final time of Tom Brady in the classic uniform that they need to bring almost anything back other than what they're wearing now.
Yeah.
That goes for this set, the one that was before it, or the Turnback. And this was cool. We featured the Patriots last year when they wore the red Turnbacks, but I really thought the cheerleaders looked phenomenal in the Sunday night game against the Dolphins. I think it was week 2. And I just dig the classic look here. This was the Sunday night, and they usually line them up with the crew. And I have to, before we get to the cheerleaders, I have to complain about how I don't like that Tony Dungy got kicked out of the studio, and because I guess he's just too old now. He got kicked out of the studio, and now he's out on the field or outside of the stadium with Rodney, who, is always arguing and taking the opposite position as Tony. And then you have Collinsworth Jr. there, who, if he was anyone else, let's face it, would never have that job. It's just like they're doing a favor for him.
I guess so. And yeah, they first kicked out Rodney from the panel, and now they've kicked out Tony, and they have to go out into the elements sometimes for the pregame with Collinsworth here. They should both be back in the studio, really. But I hadn't caught a glimpse of the cheerleaders in this game, and this was the Sunday night game, Patriots and Dolphins, and wow, the Patriots look really great under the night lights with the retro uniforms. But yeah, very interesting to see here both logos on the jacket. And those are both great Patriots logos, and just to see them together like that, really nice. And just like you said, the design of the jacket with the primary colors, the nice striping, great contrast, structure, just like so many of these retro uniforms we always compliment. Same thing here. When you design anything and you use these sort of elements, they're going to look good.
Yeah, and I even like the sweater, the Turnback sweater look. I know I'm probably almost nearly alone on that one, but I even like that look on the right there too. And I just say just bring back the red. Patriots, bring back the red. Bring back everything. Bring back the red uniforms. Make the cheerleaders look like this every week. Go back to the old logo. I think everything worked so well.
Yeah.
And I know they have all the history of winning, but I give this 2 thumbs up all the way. And this is just a little side note, and I admit I do this even during this episode. I can't stand male cheerleaders. I'm totally against male cheerleaders. This picture on the left had a male cheerleader, and I cut him out of the picture. So there they have it. It's the women only, just like the way it should be. Again, 2 thumbs up for me with the uniforms and now the cheerleaders.
Yeah, and I agree. The retro uniform should be the primary, and of course keep the Tom Brady era Super Bowl uniform as an alternate. Even if they went like half 50-50 of their home games, that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, they went all out here too. You could see in the end zone here the Pat Patriot on the goalpost.
I didn't notice that in the game either.
It was, yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I'm ready for them to go back.
Yeah.
So this is one I've been meaning to get to too, is we don't spend a lot of time on the cheerleaders, but if you see them, you see them. And the 49ers are a traditional team, and I consider them to be traditional, and they should be traditional in every aspect. That means, first of all, the players and what you see with the uniforms on the field. Then I'm talking about the midfield logo, I'm talking about the end zones, and I'm also talking about the cheerleaders too. And they've changed them around, and there's certain teams that are traditional teams who have them, who have kept them the same over the years, that being the Cowboys or the Raiders, and I've always felt the 49ers should be consistent too, and they haven't. And my gripe with this is I like the boots on the cheerleaders. I've never liked this look, and I felt that they should go back instead of, this is just what other teams do, who don't have any history, who are always changing, always going for what's current, and I feel the 49ers shouldn't be one of those teams in any aspect.
Yeah, these sets definitely are not as good as the past ones. I'm not remembering as clearly as I like to.
You'll see them. That's more like what they had in the past. It's pretty much the same uniform. Little changes, but the boots. just like we saw for the Patriots Turnback cheerleaders too, to me, I just say, well, what was wrong with this? Why the change? And then you can see, here's the side-by-side comparison. Depends on what you prefer, but I prefer the more traditional look like this with almost everything. And I'd say, come on, 49ers, there are a couple things you should clean up. With the uniforms themselves, remove black.
Yeah.
Bring back some shine to the pants, and I would say give the boots back to the cheerleaders again.
Yeah, especially when the shoes are just all primary red practically. It just doesn't match the rest of the design of the cheerleader uniform as well as the white boots.
Right, because you have the white matching over the white. It's just like any other uniform that you're reviewing versus, the dance shoes that are, I don't mind shiny on women. They do match the pom-poms, I guess.
Yeah.
But boots. That's the way to go with these. And that's a wrap for this episode. It was the longest one we've ever done for a uniform show. We could have covered far more than this. That's only the first 4 weeks of the NFL, and there's been many more areas and many more uniforms that we've seen in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we're excited about upcoming turnbacks, and some we know about when they're happening and some we don't. And again, we like to be surprised, so the ones we found out about were not intentional. We just came across them in the midst of seeing other things by accident. But yeah, it's just, again, a year of contrast where you have some really great uniforms, some really great turnbacks, and then you have these really awful alternates or primary new ones like the Cardinals being introduced. So just kind of evens out.
Yeah, it really has been a season of extremes because remember, just looking at the uniforms, we've seen some of the worst, and then we've seen these excellent turnbacks that they brought back, which we only get for maybe a week.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the Eagles. I'm very excited for the Titans when they come around and have them. We haven't had them yet.
The Oilers, great to see.
Or, excuse me, yes. The Oilers, very excited for the Oilers that we haven't seen yet. And then there's plenty of other areas we haven't gone with uniforms. The NBA season's beginning, so we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I'm not so concerned about city editions because I know, and I brace myself, they're pretty much all going to be bad with city editions. So NBA starts next week. MLB, hopefully nothing goes terribly wrong in the World Series. It's probably going to be a rematch of the Phillies and Astros. Let's hope they don't repeat the color on color that they did last year.
Yeah, and the Astros don't win in the spring training like sunrise armpit blue uniforms again.
And then we also want to look at stadiums too. That's an area we haven't explored yet to this point.
Right, football stadium.
We're always commenting on stadiums and how they could be done better. Anything and everything from lighting to logos on the field to turf, end zones. Everything you could go into with stadiums, which is also fun.
Yep.
Because, hey, that's what they're playing on.
Yeah.
It matters, too, to the appearance and the aesthetics and the whole experience of watching the game.
Yeah.